Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial for my exotic and inspirational arrangement of the hymn How Great Thou Art. In this tutorial I'm going to go over any potential trouble spots and offer up some insight into my thinking as the arranger. So this arrangement was actually originally an improvisation for YouTube and done several years ago, and I finally had the opportunity to notate it and make it available. And that brings in to the equation here a couple things worth mentioning. First of all, in large part, that means that this arrangement is a little bit more intuitive because, I performed it sort of leaning on my own bag of tricks and things that are comfortable, and it's sort of stream of consciousness. So that does make it a little bit more intuitive for me to play, and I hope that translates in general to most people. Although I know that my own habits of playing are different than yours, and so there might be a couple things that aren't intuitive. I do know I have large hands, and so there are a couple moments coming up that I'll address later in the video where you might want to compensate for how I played it. But it's also not quite as thought out an arrangement because it is more improvisational, and the benefit of an improvisational arrangement is that it is a little bit more stream of consciousness and maybe a little bit more singable, a little bit more approachable, whereas an arrangement that's more developed and thought out is sometimes a little bit more artistic and not quite as accessible for the listener or the pianist. And so it's just different, and it's worth mentioning. There are some moments that are different than the video. If you are already familiar with my arrangement as performed on YouTube, then you will notice very small discrepancies from the video to the sheet music. And that's because those are all intentional. It's because as I was notating, I thought, well, it'd probably be better, certainly more readable, certainly more consistent if I notated it this way rather than exactly like the video. So there are small alterations. Sometimes it's straightening out the rhythms, sometimes it's changing the voicings of a chord, sometimes it's maybe omitting some syncopation in the accompaniment, either straightening it out or just taking it out altogether. Or the biggest change is I added a measure in the sheet music going into this second verse. In the video, I'm actually thinking that I'm hearing in my head the melody starting a measure early, but I don't think that necessarily comes through very clearly. It's the one moment in the improvisation where, looking back, even when I first recorded it, I thought it probably wasn't obvious that I was hearing it in my head as starting on the measure that it did. And anyway, in the sheet music, there's an additional measure that I think just makes it clearer. So while we're on that second page, I will just introduce what I think is the hardest part of this arrangement, and it's these parallel thirds. They come up in measures 16 and 17 on the second page, and then they happen again at the very end. You have a big long run of parallel thirds. And the biggest challenge with parallel thirds, the same as parallel sixth, is getting them to be legato, to sound legato, without a pedal. And of course the advantage of a pedal is that it just bleeds all the notes together, and so you're able to get a legato effect even by playing staccato. If you just played them all like this, it would sound legato. But the proper way, really, and what you want to aim for if you can, is getting them as legato as possible without needing the pedal, even though you'll still be using the pedal in the final performance. And to do that, you try to maintain a sequence of fingering where at least one of the notes being played can be played by consecutive fingers, so there's not a break in sound from at least one of the notes to the next. So in order to accomplish that, here in measures 16 and 17, I have you starting on your 1 and 2 fingers, going up normally, and then crossing your thumb under, going back to 1 and 2. And in that way, you're getting it as legato as you possibly can. Now on the last one, at the end of the song, I'll tell you, this is really hard. You'll notice in the video, if you look closely, I don't follow this fingering, and that's because I'm playing it in the moment. I'm not even necessarily sure what's going to be coming next, so don't follow what I do in the video. Follow what's here in the sheet music. It's a little more thought out. I've worked really hard at the fingering to work out some fingering here that would enable you to have a consecutive fingers between all the thirds. And so if I play it slowly, as I have it written here, it would go like this, and then you cross your 1 and 3 fingers over, and then you do a 1 2 1 3 1 3 crossover, 1 3 crossover, and then it gets weird here. It's a 1 and 4. It's very unintuitive, and then a 3 and a 2, like that. So I missed a flat up there, but that's how you would play it. That's how I'd encourage you to play it. Of course, you can just use a pedal. The nice thing, I have an ad-lib instruction here, tempo-wise. You can speed it up, slow it down, and the little trick, the little hack for us pianists is that means that, you know, if the fingering gets weird, you can just dramatically slow it down, make it easier to play, and make it sound like it was intentional. You know, I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea. So that's the hardest part, and my suggestion, if that's a challenge or new to you, is as always, just take it slowly. Whenever you have a change in fingering that requires any change in fingering is going to require a crossing over or under, then use the finger that continues to sound as a kind of anchor point. Oops. So here, the first flip over, my pinky stays put, so it just functions as a hinge almost. Again, it's my pinky, so it's a hinge. Pinky again. Pinky again. And then here we'd have some funky business. So just take it slow. Speed it up only as you're able to play it. Speed up incrementally. All right, if I go back to page 2, you'll see at the very bottom of the page, measure 27, the first idiosyncrasy about my playing that you may want to alter, and that is the interval of a tenth. You have a G, D, B. It's played like this. It's over an octave. An octave would be here. This is 2 notes over an octave. For me, with my freakishly large hands, it's very comfortable. And in an improvisational situation, I just naturally play it without even thinking about it. But that's not easy necessarily, or even possible for many other pianists. And so I put the top note in parentheses because I want you to know that you don't have to play that top note. And if you don't play that top note, it still sounds really nice. So if I start at the pickup to that measure, this is what it sounds like as written. And then here it is without that parenthesis note. I bet you didn't tell it any difference. So please feel free to just omit those notes if you're not able to reach them. They come up later, especially towards the end of the arrangement. There's more of them. Just omit them. There's a little bracket here on measure 33. It's a big long chord. It's another stretch that's more than an octave. But by putting this bracket there, I mean for you to play both of those notes with one finger, with your thumb. So the notes are G, A, D, E, A, like that. And you could play it like this, but you'd be crazy to try. You'd be crazy to try. Even I, with my freakishly large hands, that's very difficult. So that bracket just means play those bottom notes with play both of those bottom notes with your thumb, like like that. Okay, it's really easy to do. You may already be familiar with it and do it intuitively yourself. Okay, the last thing is this arpeggio here at measure 41. I can't demonstrate all of it because the camera stands in the way, but it's just a C major arpeggio, and I offer fingering here where you're playing it in its third inversion. So your fourth finger plays the G, and you just do like that. If you have learned your arpeggios and you've practiced them in different inversions and all of that, then you're familiar with this fingering. And I don't play it all with one hand. It's in this arrangement, it's unnecessary. You may just want to just let your right hand take over here. However, it's just a C major arpeggio, and you just play it however you see fit, in a way that's most comfortable and most expressive and legato, and that comes across the best to the audience. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's it. Yep, that's it. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. It's not a very difficult arrangement. While there are some spots that do look dense with notes, they're very, this left-hand part is just a repeated pattern. It's really not as difficult as it looks. It's really satisfying to play. I borrow from the minor key to get some of those exotic sounds. So C major to C minor. And so it's really enjoyable to play. It's really, you can make it really dramatic. There's really big parts, there's really quiet parts, that are haunting, and so enjoy them, make the most of them, have fun with this as the pianist. There's definitely a lot of room to be dramatic, and I don't want to use the word showy, but there's definitely a lot of room to have fun with it and to really make it an experience that's worth listening to and that's enjoyable and interesting. And so I hope you do that, and I hope it is a fun arrangement for you and those for whom you play it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.